Hi, my name is Steve Martile, founder of Freedom Education. In this video, ask me your questions about manifestation or the 7-day manifestation experiment. The questions came from Scott from the US. And so what Scott had said, why is it, even for small amounts of money that you believe is possible to show up in your life, why do they not show up? Okay, so I want to give you a bit of a metaphor for this, okay? So you may know people like this, as I do as well, where you're, I want to just give the metaphors around relationships, okay, or the analogies around relationships. So pretend you're single, okay? Pretend you're single right now. You might not be. Pretend you're single, but also pretend that you're single and you're looking for a partner, but you're desperately looking for a partner, okay? So you're desperately, and if you are in that position, this will be easy for you to imagine. Now imagine that you meet someone really special in your life. And when you meet them, you get this vibe like, wow, you just like, you love them or something close to that, some sort of companionship, just like connection, whatever word you would use to describe that unison of two souls coming together, right? So there's this feeling, this connection. And then what you do is you start to obsess over this person and tell other people in your life that you really love this person, okay? This is what happens when you do that. When you start telling other people in your life about something that's happening in your life that hasn't happened yet. In other words, you're bonding with this person. You're going to be together with this person. You might start going out with this person. You're like, we're meant to be together. We're soulmates. And you start telling your friends, your family, your close friends. And you're just like, whoa, we're so meant together. You know, we had this experience. Or maybe you're talking, if you're a girl, you're talking to your girlfriends. You're like, we had this experience, such a great experience. And we are so happy together, and you know, I'm just so excited about it, and that's it, right? Then a couple more days go by, maybe a week, and you also start to change your story about that person and say, well, they didn't really call me back, and I don't really know if they're interested anymore. You've heard this conversation, I've heard it too. And these are the same people that struggle in their relationships. Okay, so what is happening? What's happened is they've released a rocket of desire. In other words, they've released some sort of dream and they've connected with someone. And they've connected with that someone, but then what they did is they started to build a story around that connection and what it meant to them. And the story ends up being a story of scarcity. In other words, it ends up being a story of lack. In other words, it means you're telling a lot of people that you're going to be with this person, but deep down inside, you know it's not really probably going to happen, and it might even happen. And what might happen is it might end in like all the other relationships that you've ever been in where the person leaves you, you feel abandoned, and that's it. Okay, so what's the deal with that, and what does it have to do with money? One of the reasons that we don't attract money, even if it's small amounts, is because we obsess over it and we think about it in terms of scarcity. Now, do we do that consciously or with intention? No, it's just our default way of programming, okay? I talk a little bit more about this in a letter in a special invitation below, but here's the thing is that when it comes to money, 99.9% of us, because if you look at like just at the States alone, United States alone, 40% of the money is owned and controlled by 1% of the people. So the other 99% have very little money, right? And they control 60% of the money, but it's like such a small amount for each person if you were to divide it up on average. But it doesn't even work out that way. Because if you keep going down the scale, you find out that most of the people have very little money. So why is it? Because if you think about it, when a lot of people think about money, and you might be in this situation, is that when you think about money, you think of it in terms of scarcity and not in abundance. And if you want to think, so the question you should be asking yourself is, okay, well, I did a 7-day manifestation experiment, or I tried to manifest some money and it didn't work, even though it was a small amount. If you know now what I'm sharing with you is that if you actually think about money most of the day, your waking day, you actually think of it in scarcity, then the question you want to ask yourself is, well, how do I think of it all the time in abundance? Well, that's an unconscious game. And that's one of the reasons why we don't attract money. It's the same reason why a lot of people struggle in relationships. They get this high, they feel really excited, they get that connection, and you might even get it when you know you're with that person or when you're just thinking about them. But then as time continues, the story changes and it turns into one of neediness and scarcity, and then you're going around convincing everyone that it's going to show up for you. And if you're doing that, then you're thinking about that person in terms of scarcity, in terms of them not being here as opposed to them being here. You're feeling scarce as opposed to abundant and joyful and connected. So it's the same with money. You want to look at your relationship with money. How do you normally think about money? And if you're normally doubting yourself that money's going to show up, normally thinking scarce thoughts about money, which is, like I said, 99% of people, then you want to ask yourself, this is the next logical question. It's like, well, how do I start thinking about money abundantly all the time? Even when I sleep, even when I'm awake? Well, the way is to shift your programming around money. So there's a letter below that shares a special invitation on how to do that, and you can read more about that below. I hope that answers the question. My name is Steve Martili. Thanks so much for watching and listening, and I'll be in touch real soon.